Hello Giants fans, thank you for watching the Giants Alliance channel. Today, I'm going to rank the top receivers of Eli Manning's career, and I'm basing it on how good the receivers were in their prime. I am not basing these rankings on how good the receiver was throughout his entire career with the Giants, because if that was the case, Amani Toomer it would win because he is the best receiver in Giants history. But I'm basing it on how good they were for one season or how good they were in their prime. So Eli Manning has had a lot of great receivers throughout his career. He did struggle with some supporting casts, especially towards the end of his time with the Giants. He had some very poor offensive lines. He had some really bad defenses as well. But he has had some very good receivers during his time with the Giants. And number 5 on my list is Amani Toomer. So Amani Toomer, some people would rank much higher, but his best season actually came in 2002 before Eli Manning came to the Giants. And in 2002 with Kerry Collins, he had over 80 catches with 8 touchdowns and over 1,200 yards. So he's been a solid receiver throughout his career with the Giants. And he was always very clutch for Eli Manning. The one play that really sticks out to me with Eli was his game-winning touchdown against the Broncos in 2005. He had another game-winning touchdown earlier in his career against the Broncos, but his play against Dallas in the 2007 divisional playoff game was so clutch, and it happened in the beginning in the first quarter, but it really set the tone for that game and the upset, as you can see here, where he caught a short pass and was able to run by all the defenders for a very long touchdown. And that set the tone for the game because the Cowboys that season were 13-3. They had 13 Pro Bowlers. They were heavy favorites going into the game. But Amani Toomer was always so clutch, especially in moments like that. And you can see here his big touchdown catch against the Broncos where they upset an undefeated team. Oh, this one's not against the Broncos, but he had a lot of big touchdown catches, and he played with a lot of different quarterbacks during his time with the Giants, and he put up some amazing statistics. One of the best things about Amani Toomer was his ability to catch the ball on the sideline, and he had some great sideline awareness. He was able to get his foot down in bounds almost every single time. He had great hands. He was always consistent, but I wouldn't say he was a dominant receiver. He was never like an all-pro caliber receiver, even in his prime. So that's why I'm ranking him 5th on this list. But he is a very, very good receiver that Eli Manning always trusted, especially on third downs and in big situations. Number 4 on my list is Victor Cruz. And Victor Cruz is an amazing story. He really came out of nowhere, and his coming out party actually came against the Jets in a preseason game in 2010, and supposedly the Giants were ready to release him, but Rex Ryan said that he was ready to sign Victor Cruz if he was released by the Giants. And luckily for the Giants, they found a way to keep him on the roster to protect him from getting signed by the Jets or any other team. And it worked out so well for the Giants because his 99-yard catch against the Jets really catapulted the Giants to their 4th Super Bowl. And without that catch, I don't think we would have won this game against the Jets. But this was not the only big catch he had in 2011. In 2011, he had 1,500 yards. He was one of the best slot receivers that Eli Manning, or probably the best slot receiver that Eli Manning ever had. He had an incredible 2011. In 2012, he was also very good. Unfortunately for him, his career was cut short by injuries like many other players on this list. But his big catch against the Dallas Cowboys in Week 17 really won that game for the Giants because they needed to win this game in order to make the playoffs. Remember, they were only 9-7 during the 2011 season, but they were able to ride that momentum into the Super Bowl. And Victor Cruz came up with so many big catches, especially in the first half of the 2011 NFC title game. And this is the game I think that was the best out of any game Eli Manning has ever played. It wasn't his best game statistically, but the 49ers had an incredible defense, an incredible front seven, and he did catch the first touchdown in the 2011 Super Bowl against the Patriots, which was actually a very difficult catch. if you notice, the linebacker cut right in front of him, and he was able to bobble the pass and still come up with it. And he did his signature salsa dance, of course. But Plaxico Burress is number 3 on my list, and he would be number 1 on many people's lists, but he was never a dominant all-pro player for the Giants, although he did flash dominance many times with the Giants. But Plaxico Burress, the thing I remember him by the most was his performance in the 2007 NFC Championship game when they were playing in like negative 26-degree temperatures, and he was just abusing Al Harris the entire game. Al Harris was a pretty good press corner. Some people today he was a little bit overrated, but he abused Al Harris, and he was getting open consistently in the cold weather, and he was catching everything in this game. And Eli Manning really trusted him. He was just a perfect fit for Eli because Eli was just able to throw it up, and Plaxico would usually come down with it. So he was very good at consistent catches. But something that was actually underrated about Plaxico was his ability to run after the catch. For such a tall receiver, he was very agile, and he had very good moves after the catch. He was very difficult to bring down to the ground. But obviously, he made some huge catches in Giants history. We all know what happened in 2018, where that team probably would have won another Super Bowl if not for Plaxico's unfortunate accident. But, of course, Giants fans will still always love Plaxico because he had the biggest touchdown in Giants history to defeat the undefeated Patriots. And that was actually a very underrated catch and an underrated throw on that game-winning catch against the Patriots because Eli Manning was facing an all-out blitz, and he kind of just lobbed it up there. But it was a very accurate pass, and Plaxico did a great job of just juking the cornerback on this play because it was an all-out blitz, so the cornerback maybe thought he would go out for a shorter pass, and he was able to get wide open for the touchdown. And Eli, of course, put the ball right on the money because it seemed like the ball was in the air forever, and I remember watching it and just hoping that he would come down with it for the touchdown. But Plaxico was just so clutch. And in this game, in the Super Bowl, he was actually injured for a lot of the game. He was not really 100%, and he was used as a decoy throughout most of the Super Bowl. Steve Smith, who's an honorable mention, he did not make this list. He was actually the one who made a lot of the clutch third down catches during the Super Bowl. But Plaxico, even though he was injured, even though he was not 100%, was able to get open and come down with the catch for the game-winning touchdown in the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest Super Bowl in the history of the Giants. And you can see the move he's able to put on the cornerback to win the game for the Giants. And he came up with so many clutch catches for Eli, and they were kind of a perfect match for each other. He actually had better seasons statistically with the Steelers before he came to the Giants, but I rank him third on the list because number 2, in my opinion, is the most underrated Giants receiver of all time, Hakeem Nicks. There has never been any Giants receiver that I've ever watched, and I'm a diehard fan. I never miss any game. I've been watching the game since the 90s when I was a little kid. I've never seen a receiver with better hands than Hakeem Nicks. So when he went up to catch the ball, he usually always came down with it. And something actually very underrated about Hakeem Nicks, because he wasn't considered a burner. He wasn't the fastest receiver the Giants ever had, but he was very good after the catch, and he was actually quicker than he was fast, and he was able to get separation on cornerbacks. And of course, his greatest catch as a Giant, in my opinion, was the Hail Mary against the 15-1 Packers team that really put that game away. I just knew after he caught that Hail Mary, there was no way the Giants were losing. And I had a really good feeling, even though the Giants were 9-7, even though there were other teams that had more talented rosters possibly, I just knew the Giants were going to win the Super Bowl after Hakeem Nicks made that catch. And he was so big in the playoffs. He was such a dominant number 1 go-to receiver for the Giants. And PFF actually ranked the top 5 Giants of the decade. And I know PFF does not get the a lot of credit from a lot of Giants fans, and there's a lot of things they do and say that Giants fans would disagree with, especially recently about Daniel Jones. But they do some great work, and one thing they said was that Hakeem Nicks was actually the third most valuable Giant of the decade, based on PFF grades. And he was so dominant with his hands, but also after the catch. He's such a strong receiver. Unfortunately for him, he did not have a very long career. He was actually a rookie in 2009 at the end of the first round. The Giants got him out of North Carolina. But he only played a few seasons with the Giants, and it's really unfortunate because he was so good, and then his career was cut short by injuries. He did play one season with the Colts after he left the Giants, but he was never the same after his first few years because of injuries, just like Victor Cruz. So number one on my list, and this is very controversial, but I truly, strongly believe that Odell Beckham is the best receiver that Eli Manning had ever played with. And Odell Beckham is a very controversial player, but in my opinion, there's never been a more talented receiver for the Giants. And there's never been a more talented offensive player for the Giants as well. And I've had this conversation with my dad so many times. We used to always tell each other that Odell Beckham Jr. was sort of like the Lawrence Taylor of the Giants offense because he had that much of an impact on the games. When he was healthy, and he did deal with a lot of injuries towards the end of his career with the Giants, but when he was healthy, there was never a better receiver in the NFL. Like, I thought he was the best receiver in the entire NFL during the beginning of his career with the Giants. He was just so dominant. He did not run the fastest 40 time out of any receiver in the 2014 draft, but if you watch him on the field, it always looked like he was the fastest player on the field, and he would just outrun people. He had amazing hands, of course. He did struggle a little bit with like concentration drops, something that I never saw Hakeem Nicks do. But of course, he made the most difficult catches look routine. And I know a lot of people might put him lower down on this list because of his playoff performance against the Packers. But I'm just talking about talent and how good they were in their prime. And there has never been a better Giants receiver than Odell Beckham Jr. in his prime. I just strongly believe that if he was able to stay healthy, if he was able to, be a better influence in the locker room and not cause as many headaches as he did with some of his antics and sideline tantrums and all that other stuff, I think he would still be on the Giants, and he would actually be a perfect fit for Daniel Jones. He's a perfect fit for any quarterback. And I do think he could have a bounce-back season this year with the Cleveland Browns. He dealt with a lot of injuries. Baker Mayfield had a bad year last year. But I just strongly believe that Odell Beckham, not just because of this amazing one-handed catch against the Cowboys, but I just think Odell Beckham is the most talented receiver that Eli Manning has ever played with. I think he's going to have a good year in 2020. I'm still rooting for him. But I want to thank you guys for watching my channel. Please subscribe. Please check out my article on this topic at nygiantsalliance.com. Give me a thumbs up. I would appreciate it. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you.